In this video, I'm going to go through a few of these questions relating to our trig, our exact values, our sine and cosine functions, sketching them. So I'll see how many I can get through, and I might have to split into a couple of videos for this. So the first one, we're changing each of the following to radian measure in terms of pi. So these are the ones where we are just doing our 330 pi over 180, and then we're simplifying that. Now, for my students who aren't great at simplifying fractions, I always tell them to use the fraction button on their calculator. Even though my calculator doesn't have that fraction symbol on there, I can still do alpha and press that xt theta n and get that fraction come up on the calculator. So I can still use it that way. I can put the 330 in, I can put the 180, and that reduces it to 11 on 6. So I can write that that will be 11 pi on 6 as my answer there. When I've got my 810, I can do that the same way and do my 8, so use my fraction and put the 810 over 180, and I get 9 pi on 2 for that one. For my 1080, same deal again. So I'm pressing that fraction, I'm putting in my 1080 over 180, and then I'm popping my, and that's 6. So I'll get 6 pi for that. And if I check that, I can go 6 times 180, and I get the 1080, which was what I was looking for. So I can always go back and check that my version that I've written in pi works for the number of degrees that I have. Now, going back the other way, even easier. So we've got our 5 pi over 6. We're just doing 5 times 180 divided by 6. So 5 times 180 divided by 6, I'm going to get 150 degrees. 7 pi over 4, again, I'm going to do 7 times 180 and divide it by 4. So I get 315 degrees. And then my 11 pi on 4, 11 times 180 divided by 4, and I get 495 degrees. Then we get into our exact values. So these are the ones where we're going to have to draw it on our quadrant, see which quadrant it lies in, see what the reference angle is, etc. So question 3. I'm going to start by, because I know some students find it a lot easier to picture where it is on the quadrants if I turn it into degrees first. So I've got 11 pi on 4, which was my answer, but it was one of my questions in the one above. So I've got, and it looks like these other ones match as well, 7 pi on 4, 11 pi on 6 we'll have to work out. So 11 pi on 4 is my 495. So I know when I draw my unit circle and my quadrants here, I've got 0, pi on 2, pi, 3 pi on 2, that if I've got 495, I've gone round 360, so I'll do that here, take away 360. So I've gone around one cycle plus another 135, which is going to land me over here. So I know that this part of it is 135, and if I do 180 take 135, I get 45 degrees. I'm going to pop in my CAST here, and so that 45 there is going to be the equivalent of a 45 over here. Now we're looking for sine of that. So in that quadrant, sine is positive. So it's going to be the equivalent of sine 45. Then I can go to, obviously you're not going to be given these tables. You might have to set up your little triangles. And because I've got the 45, I can just do the 45 triangle. I know it's 1, 1, root 2. And I've got opposite over hypotenuse, so it's just going to be 1 on root 2 as my answer. When I go to the next one, I have got negative 7 pi on 4. So I know that 7 pi on 4 is the 315, but this time I'm going back 315. So if I've got 360 and I take 315 away, I get 45. So I've gone all the way back bar 45 degrees. And this time I have got cos of that. So cos of my negative 7 pi on 4 is going to equal cos of 45. Now, already got my 45 triangle, so I can come over here. Adjacent over hypotenuse is going to be 1 on root 2. And I'm in that first quadrant, so that'll work. I can always double check these by putting them in my calculator. Even if it's a tech-free question, I can put my sine 45. I get this 0.707, which is my 1 divided by root 2, and see how I get the same answer there. I can then do my cos of 45 and double check that, same deal. And the last one is the 11 pi on 6. So I will change that, 11 times 180 divided by 6, I get 330. So I know that I have gone around all but 30 degrees. And I'm looking at sine, so in that quadrant it's going to be negative, so it'll be the equivalent of negative sine 30. And then I just need my exact value for 30, so I've got my 60-30 triangle, my 1, my root 3 and 2, and for sine it will be opposite over hypotenuse, so that'll be 1 over 2. And it's going to be negative. And then I can double check that because I had sine of 330 and I get negative a half, which is what I worked out using my exact values.